This offseason, not a ton of massive turnover in Indy. Michael Pittman Jr., the biggest name, obviously, hitting free agency. We are expecting a franchise tag. We are worried about maybe recording this on a Friday. If something's been implemented already by the time this recorded.
They're keeping him. Like, whether it's the tag, whether they get a deal worked out, Pittman, and certainly for our purposes as, de facto GMs here, Michael Pittman Jr. is not hitting the open market.
Yes, because we need him and more. We need him plus. So big offseason for Indy. They've got the rookie contract quarterback. They've got some of the most cap space in the NFL, so they've got that flexibility. Feels like they've been in that position for a while. Is this the year they pounce and start to spend that money and build around Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, they're bought into Anthony Richardson. We didn't see much of him because of injury, but I think what we did see was encouraging. I think they're bought in, and last year I think showed that the team, it's reasonably good. They can go ham now and deploy resources around him.
I always like to we'll start with the offense, the O-line, and the playmakers, right? Mm-hmm. We mentioned Pittman. Okay, let's say we bring him back. I always describe Pittman as a high-end possession-type receiver. He's been averaging 10 to 12 yards per catch, moves the chains. He'll get 5 or 6 first downs a game, and that's huge, right? Alec Pierce has basically just been, every now and again, he shows up as a deep threat. And then Josh Downs was very promising as a rookie working out of the slot. It does seem like the Colts want more consistency from the Alec Pierce spot and a legitimate, it doesn't even have to be a number 2, but I want a deep threat. I want a guy that is stretching the field, creating big plays, a nice compliment to Michael Pittman Jr. We've mentioned a bunch in the draft. There are those types, right? The Brian Thomas Jr.'s and the Xavier Worthies. There are speed-type receivers. Ricky Pearsall, if you want to get him back with Anthony Richardson, former Gators teammates. But speed on the outside feels like a priority here for the Colts.
Yeah, so one problem with we do all these we do it at this particular time of year so that we can beat free agency and all the stuff so that the moves haven't happened yet by the time we're talking about how to fix them. Problem with that is the Colts, we can't identify the Colts draft board yet because we don't have athletic measurables, and the Colts are simply going to take the best athletes from the combine that is upcoming next week, and we don't know who that is yet.
That is absolutely true.
Which is unfortunate.
Yes.
They are probably the most athletic testing-driven team in the NFL right now. Like, they haven't taken a bad athlete basically ever in the last X number of years.
Last year, a guy like Juju Brents broke the combine from a cornerback standpoint. They drafted him in the second. Ada Adebaware had one of the better workouts you'll ever see from. He is an edge defensive interior hybrid. All the dudes who ran really well. Obviously, Anthony Richardson, I don't think that was the reason that they got him. There was other reasons, of course, but
probably helped, though.
I'm sure it didn't hurt. Look, they're picking at 15. What do they have? 8 picks? 7? They're just base allotment of picks. 7. 3 in the top 82. Pick 15. I've seen Brock Bowers mocked to them right in the middle of that first round there. But I think there's potential receiver talent there. The other spot, I'm talking about the defense now, the outside cornerback situation in Indy. It looked bad before the season. I don't think it was as bad as the on-paper breakdown. Remember, before the season, they had something like 200 snaps of experience across 4 corners on the outside. By the end of the season, rookies Juju Brents and Jalen Jones were both out there, and they might be fine, right? Like Brents especially, as I mentioned, crazy athletic, was expected to be kind of a late bloomer. Think of like Tariq Woolen with Seattle. So maybe they're fine there. Darrell Baker Jr., Dallas Flowers, maybe they're okay, but it still feels like somewhere where they can invest once again.
Sure, yeah. When you say invest, you mean veteran free agents on the basis that the guys they have are currently very young, and there's probably not much sense adding more young to it?
Yeah, I keep trying to pair first-round corners with teams. It's probably not in the first round. I think there's a pass catcher there. Like if Bowers falls or the way the receiver board falls, I think in the first round that could be a great spot.
They are being mocked a lot with corners, so it wouldn't be crazy. Like you wouldn't be out on an island if you put a first round corner with them.
If I was running the Colts, I would probably do that because I don't know how much I trust the guys that they invested in, but I think they like those guys. They went into the season last year with those 4, and it wasn't great, but it also wasn't a disaster, I guess.
Sure.
Or as disastrous as it could have been. So I'm going to say that they're not going to draft a corner in the first because of the youth that they have, but would like a veteran presence in that room for sure.
I'm simply currently looking up. I'm looking up like athletic measurables of current free agents to figure out who would even be on the list.
Stop.
Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson
Jackson would be a
has
very
some
good.
pretty
Yes.
impressive athletic measurables. He would be in the top percentile group of the players they're looking for. So I think Adoree Jackson would be an option. Sean Murphy-Bunting, I think, also has an exceptionally high athletic profile, so he's also on the list.
Let's see. Do I have my? I've got a model sheet out here, but I can't dig through it this quickly enough. What are your thoughts at receiver for them? I think there's the quote unquote big three of Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, and Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
Beyond that, are they? A lot of people like Brian Thomas Jr. Again, it depends on testing.
Right.
Are they destined for one of these guys? Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy. I don't know what Ricky Pearsall is going to test. I know that his game speed was very fast, looked fast, played fast, numbers showed fast. Do they want an all-around guy like A.D. Mitchell? They're destined for one of those guys, right?
Yeah, I could see Brian Thomas Jr. in particular testing very well. And
he plays fast, like with deep speed.
Yeah. He's a guy I need to go back to because I didn't love his tape first time around, but I'm definitely an outlier on that, and I need to make sure that I'm at least comfortable being an outlier, if not changing my mind entirely.
You didn't like him on first watch. I didn't like Keon Coleman at all.
Yeah,
after watching
Coleman
him.
is weird. Coleman's just a difficult one. I am fully comfortable with the idea that I like him even though I shouldn't. Like he's one of those players where every note I was writing down was bad, and yet somehow I still came away being like, I still kind of want him on my team. Like, it's not logical, right? I'm okay with that. There are some players that happens with every now and again. You're like, most of what I'm writing down here is a negative, and yet somehow I'm still convinced that the whole can work. The Brian Thomas Jr. thing was different, where I just didn't really see it the first time around, but so many other people do that I need to go and just do it, like run through his tape again. And either I change my mind, or I'm like, no, I am comfortable that I'm just lower on him than everybody else.
He feels like he could be a good fit here. I just don't know if he's another Alec Pierce type, because I don't know. I don't know if he's great all around, but anyway, that could be a really nice fit. We're trying to get weapons for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where they're in good shape, though. And a lot of this roster, like we've always said about the Eagles, when guys are in the last year of their contract, looking ahead, like the offensive line is all coming back. All the starters are coming back. A couple of the guys are in the last year of their contracts. DeForest Buckner is going to head into the final year of his contract on the defensive side of the ball. So there might be some Kwity Paye going to have a fifth-year option coming up here, I believe, right? So I think more defensive line depth is always needed for every single team, especially if you're trying to think about Buckner and his future, if you don't have him locked up necessarily. And then defensive end, like Kwity Paye's been fine, friend of the show. Samson Ebukam had a nice season last year. But I think they'd like to upgrade that pass rush a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Losing, potentially a guy like Grover Stewart is huge. So you do need somebody on the interior other than DeForest Buckner. Maybe that becomes Adebawore from last year, though there weren't many signs of that as a rookie. Is that a Tavondre Sweat move? Do you want the big nose tackle to replace Grover Stewart? No, I think you can just find another interior body that you think can be a solid contributor. I don't think you necessarily need to chase a particular body type.
Picking at 15, I think the Colts might be in a good position. I keep mentioning Brock Bowers as a faller because I don't know if the size is going to scare some teams off, where they're going to say, well, picking him at 8 or 9, I don't want to do that. But if you're picking 15 to 20, absolutely. Right. I wonder if Laiatu Latu from UCLA, our guy there, short arms, an injury history, if that has him available at 15, I feel like the Colts are in this spot where there'll be some good football players that we really like in particular that maybe are missing a measurable or missing something where they can get somebody really good at 15.
And they could be in that could also be a spot where like the first interior defender off the board goes, right? Like someone like Byron Murphy from Texas. Yeah. Maybe that's the highest a guy like that goes, and they're in that position as well. So, normally, maybe it depends draft to draft. But I think that is an actual spot in this draft that could end up giving them a really nice variety of options to go with.
All right, so we've given some options. We've talked about the positions. Is there anything with this cap space? And again, it's been like this multi-year deal, I think, where Indy's near the top of cap space, and they always maintain this flexibility. Is there a quote-unquote splash move to be made here? Are they going to throw that money around? Is it on the defensive line? I've mentioned Danielle Hunter for some people and Jonathan Grenard. Do they go D-line and just go, three-headed monster at edge, but also maybe they're not in on the long term with Kwity Paye? He's been pretty good, not great as a first-round pick. Is that where they could potentially spend that money? Because like I said, I think corner they're going to be feeling pretty good about themselves. And then receiver, I don't know that there's the right fit to throw a ton of money at a wide receiver too there.
Yeah, maybe. L'Jarius Sneed is the guy that I don't generally love spending big money on free agents as a concept, but the one player that's available, I think.
Sneed, I would do that.
Yeah, this year is Sneed. And I think there's a few teams that it makes sense to spend that kind of money on a guy like Sneed. The other one that maybe makes sense for sort of top of the market money is Danielle Hunter. Like maybe the Colts would go after Danielle Hunter, give him $20 million a year, pair him with DeForest Buckner and whatever else you have on that defensive line. It's expensive, and Danielle Hunter does have a not insignificant injury history, albeit has been pretty clean the last couple of years. But that would be a risk, I think, if they did it. But it wouldn't be crazy.
All right, I like it. So we get the Colts.
And by the way, he's got to tick the boxes of special athlete because he's the poster boy for athletic, non-productive college guy.
That's true. That absolutely does. I wonder how much that matters with their free agents, because at some point the athleticism doesn't really matter.
No, it always
matters.
Your
production matters.
Always matters with them.
Yeah.